Hey everybody, it's Marty the JavaScript Party and my buddy Rhett here. We are just doing a pre-work coding session. I have it's 8:27 on Tuesday, April 1st. So I don't know. I think when I was a little kid, it was a really big deal. I think it is sort of becoming less of a big deal. But today used to be what we would call April Fool's Day. Um, I don't know. I don't know where that came from, or whatever. But it used to be the day that like you could just trick people. You were allowed to trick people. You could be like, "Oh, April Fools." So you could be like, I don't know. "Oh, mom, I wrecked the car. It's got a huge dent in it." And then when your mom freaks out and starts to sort of get wound up, you go, "April Fools!" Ah! And everybody laughs, and then the mom goes, "Oh!" You know, it was really the way life was back then. I have not seen anyone play an April Fool's joke in 20 years. So I don't know if like April Fool's jokes just got out of hand and they needed to simmer that down or whatever. But JavaScript and Angular have played an April Fool's joke on me in that my stuff's all messed up and I don't know why. I don't have the vaguest idea why. Um, like I understand why this renderer is getting rendered here and all that, but I do not for the love. I have no idea why this one is getting rendered all the way here. I believe this is the very first one, and so I did get rid of the animations just so I could see what's going on, inspect. I don't know if I have any sort of way in the inspector to know like which one, but it seems like it's the last one. But so it's weird to me that the last one has something in it, and then I guess this other one is the first one. And so then the first one appears to have lost its uh, its visualization inside of there. Oh yeah, I see it. Oh, so yeah, this one's ID 7. Oh, ID 13. Okay, so this is clearly the first one. So the first one, it looks like lost the visualization that was in it, or something. I don't know. And then the last one, for some reason, has some that code that I created somehow decided that it doesn't need a top at all. And the left, oh, okay. That makes sense. Now I remember something. Something I did. It's this. Boom. So that is one. I don't know what I just did. I learned this little button here yesterday. Okay. So that is one mystery solved. So it never got calculated. All right. So now, wait for it. Wait for it. Okay, so that's pretty crazy. So it looks like they all probably got pushed on top of each other. Let's see if there's a console error. Too many active WebGL contexts. This came from 3. Oldest context will be lost. And then I see skipped over and over and over again. And now let's look at the up here. So there is another example of something I never would have expected. Um, so now, April Fools. Um, let's go ahead and get rid of this one and see if that fixes everything, or if for some reason removing that has. Okay, so once we add a new cell renderer, everything goes sideways again. Um, Now I know that when we called cell renderer last time, then at the end of it, we go through each one of these and we create the visualization. So we never do create the visualization um, this time. So we need that last viz component, but I don't think we have any way of getting that last viz component. So it kind of looks like we've messed things up. Now here, let me put the um, animations back in and see what things look like when it's animated. So we are in the fact. This is probably one of the times that just really freaks out a junior dev, because you have an idea and you have a linear plan and everything's just going as you expect. And then suddenly something's just broken and you don't understand why. It doesn't make a bit of sense to you. And then you think that that's like an experience that only happens to junior developers, but it happens to all developers. Um, and then I believe if we don't do this one, yeah, and then let's just double check that this is still happening. Yeah, and so then it, and that one is in fact. So it's the first, well, let's go to the very last one. Yeah, so basically it just added, it just sort of got rid of the first one. I think we'll probably still have that console error warning. Yeah. So anyways, lots of mysteries. This is lots of mysteries. Okay, so now let's just go ahead and let's figure this out. Let's go ahead and comment everything out and just have two of them so we can sort of lower the complexity of what was going on here. Okay, so we just have the one. And now if we add the second one. Yeah, so now we have one sitting on top of the other because it never does get calculated. So basically what we have, what we really want to do is this again. This validation to create visualizations. Right, so basically we ended up waiting the last time because we wanted to give the whole view time to build before we actually created the visualization. So let me do something here. Inspect. So we have two of them. This is the first one. This is the second one. So if I go in here and I just delete this one altogether. Delete element. Yeah, so all we see is the last one. So basically we have the two elements are sitting on top of each other. Yeah, and you can see it for the first second, the first one, and then it stops because the other visualization's sitting on top. But we don't really want that. So what's really weird to me about all of this is create renderer. So this all made so much sense to me. So children is this. So let's say we just, so my theory is that I could, okay, let's just make this a function called setup visualizations, and we have a void. Doesn't return nothing. We return nothing. And then we do this, and then so all we're trying to do is just be able to call this from different places. Now it acts on all of them, which obviously we don't want. We only want it to act on the visualizations that don't have, or the viz components that don't have, the components, I guess is the way we should call it, that don't have actual visualizations. And I don't understand how. that all happens. So obviously there's something going on here that I do not understand. Okay, so let's just double check that we could still do what we used to be able to do. I have no idea how many sessions this is going to take to figure out what I'm missing. Something. There's a gap in my understanding. Okay, so that's weird in that. Oh, do I have one extra that it can handle? Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, so everything still works as before. So what happens if I do this? And this. So just wait a second. So we get a whole visualization. So create renderer. What does this create renderer even do now? So what happens if I do all of those, like if I do all of them in here? I think they'll all just sit on top of each other because right now there'll be 3 of them, I'm assuming. Yeah, and they're just all sitting on top of each other. And so then if I say this dot, okay, so that's wild. Because what I was expecting to happen would be that the 3 of them would be side by side. But they're not. Right, let's comment this out just so it's not like it's not doing anything because there are no IDs. This dot render IDs for each. But it could be a little bit like confusing to. So it waits a second and it builds it, and then it should be going through each one of these. Let's see, do we have anything in the console now? All we have is skit over and over and over again. And I think it's because the hash didn't change. Maybe. Do I do something to calculate the hash? No. So let's just see if we're actually ever getting in here. Looping. And this is like this sort of situation you got to keep in mind, while it's very frustrating, is extraordinarily good for your brain. It's really, really good for your brain to have to sort of rediscover things. It's very bad for your brain to get really stressed out. So it doesn't look like we ever get into here. Now we'll be dumbfounded if this one doesn't ever happen. Set up. Yep. So we got in there set up twice. Oh, and that's because I wonder if calling it here is messing things up. No. So now we should only be getting in this setup once. Yeah, setup, skip, setup. All right, so. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to put a debug in here and just see why it's not working. So what I expect to do is to find a bunch of viz components and turn them into an array of children. But for some reason, it isn't finding the viz visualization items. And visualization items is, where are you? Oh, this guy. So it's supposed to query list and give me a visualization items, but it's not. So let's hit refresh and see what is going on. What you talking about, Willis? Children is definitely a bad name. So there are no visualizations yet when this gets called. That is interesting. So there's like a timing issue here. The setup visualization gets called before the actual. Oh, and that makes sense because, okay. And actually, I was very interested. Okay, so it was very interesting to me um, because one of the one of the well, I watched this video done by one of the Angular architects, and he was talking about how they do this specific situation about that like the drawing of things happens after. So the way JavaScript works is it runs this line of code, this line of code, this line of code, then this line of code. And when that happens, then once it's all done running all the lines of codes that's in its list of things to run. So like if we can actually get a pretty good. So like if we go here and we say, and this isn't a perfect example, but like, see, this is the list of everything that caused this code to run. And then this is part of an overall loop that is happening in JavaScript. And basically it loops, it runs through a bunch of code, and then it loops and it runs through a bunch of code. And then 60 times a second, it draws things. Or at least that's what it tends to do. It intends to draw things. So basically what has happened in this situation here is that this setup via visualization happened before an opportunity to draw happened. So basically, if you do like this, and this just, oh my gosh, it's so hard to, like, it just really hurts the feelings of some developers. Like it just really triggers some developers when they see these set timeouts. But that is exactly what they do behind the scenes in Angular. They'll do like a set timeout. I can't remember if he said they do an actual, and then they actually call the request animation frame as well. So basically I'm saying all this is, I wish there was just a function in JavaScript. I hope they one day add this, like, but so in maybe for browser web API that says defer to next draw or something like that. But we're gonna let it draw everything and then run this. That should work. We'll see. Nothing's been working for me. There we go. So the problem is that, and even though we said and 0 seconds is just saying, hey, this function, they really should abstract this function out into its own little thing that says defer to next or whatever, because people would feel so much better about this dot defer to next and then the call than they do about set timeout 0. They just don't like that. It just bothers them. Like I would love it if all cars had like a clear hood and you could see the engine running underneath there. I would love that, but most people don't want to see that. They want a nice clean hood and they don't want to think about what's happening. So this is like basically what would be happening under the hood, but we do need a function that puts us under the hood so that those developers and people that are emotionally distraught over things like this can understand what's going on. So now let's go ahead and remove this because I do not think this was the problem. But maybe the hash gets messed up. Maybe that whole hashing mechanism. No, okay, so that worked. So does that mean I can do this? Interesting. So I don't know exactly what happened here, but this is a very useful situation. So if I have two of them, will I end up? Yeah, that is really fascinating. Is there something there? Do you see what I see? Yeah, there's nothing there. There's something there. There's something there. He's at where's my left and right? It's right there. Left is 0, top is 200. So what I would have thought would happen was this would be left 0. So this is ID 1. So for some reason 1 ended up over 200 pixels. I don't know why. So that will be a good next thing. So yeah, I still would say that I don't really understand what's going on. I think, okay, so basically the problem over here was that we're creating renderers, but we're never setting them up. So then they don't ever get moved. And so then when we just only set it up, yeah, so it put all three of them next to it, which is weird. But and then if we let it wait, and they would be interesting to dig into that too, why that happens. But I don't think it is relevant to our existing problem. Then there's that. So what we really would rather have is, what happens if we have two of them? So basically it looks like so it starts off right. And then the whole thing gets moved down, and then, so let's just go ahead, just for simplification reasons. Yeah, everybody slid over, and so I guess maybe they're being recalculated. I don't know. It'll be interesting to dig out, but what we want is for these two to be sideways, not now I'm very curious as if I move my, okay, so let's go ahead and move all of, let's turn this on. I think one of them will be, yeah. And so let's go ahead and move all this into its own function. So it'll just be easier to call whenever we want to. So we're still in discovery mode. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being in discovery mode. I know, like, a lot of times you're under a lot of pressure to get stuff done, but there's absolutely nothing wrong with having to discover when you're building stuff. So anyone, like, this is the thing, is that things just don't work the way you think they're going to work, or the way anyone thinks they're going to work. They just don't. Just not one of those things. Just life isn't like that. Computer programming isn't like that. Anyone who says, "Oh, ChatGPT is going to replace artificial intelligence, is going to replace XYZ," has not been introduced to the realities of life. And the realities of life is that um, uh, things don't work the way you expect them to work. And if things work the way you expect them to work, then you wouldn't need to hire creative people to do creative things, because we would know exactly how things are supposed to work. Yeah, so that worked the way I was hoping. Now I think if I remove this and then I call it here, and what's amazing, what's really interesting about this is it doesn't even have to, like, it doesn't exist yet, but it's still, because all this does is animate. All this does is configuration. It doesn't actually care about the actual visualization. It just sets up the configuration. And that was a neat thing to think through right now. So I think if we do this, it'll just be, one of them will be twice as fast. The first one will be twice as fast. Yeah, see, because it got. So anyways, we're still trying to figure out what's going on. Basically, I still don't quite understand why everything didn't work. And the other thing I'm curious about now is, do we still have this 16, the limit of 16? Okay, so now we have 4. I guess if we divide these into 3, it'll be easy to tell. So we have 12, 13, 15. So I think 15 should work. And then we don't, do we have any kind of error? We don't have any kind of error. And then I think once we break past 15, things break, or were breaking. We'll see if they break if you add this little. Yeah, then things still break. So it doesn't, it's not a timing issue. I do think we've just found some sort of behind the scenes limit. There was probably like some developers that said they will never do XYZ to this level. And then we just sort of found the edge of the globe, and we're falling off the map. So anyways, that is fun. I guess I should do this just so next time I don't have to try to figure out. All right, so the next video, what we're going to try to do is fix it to where it doesn't slide over, so that it stays. So maybe it's figured out whether maybe we need to add like something in the TypeScript to say that it's been initialized true or false. Something like that. Or yeah. Or maybe if it already has a width, if the width, it only tries to calculate it if the width and the height, that's not going to be good enough. Yeah, I think we're going to have like an init boolean, which again, I think makes export and import much more complicated, because when we import, if the init boolean is set to true, then, and it hasn't actually been initialized or whatever, yeah, we probably need to do something more internal, like some sort of like had like a registration process, like okay, this has been registered, so it's ready to roll. Anyways, it is 8:57 and I have to be to work in 3 minutes, so gots to go. Happy coding, everybody. Bye.